Good morning. Here we are again. This time we're here and we are putting a face with what the union has been talking about for more than 4 years since Mayor de Blasio became mayor. And we're here with two officers who are the victim of the mayor's misguided policies. Although he accused me of playing politics, his elimination of punitive segregation was based on a political ideology, but he accuses me of playing politics. His elimination of punitive segregation and his watering down of the sanctions that we historically have been able to use against inmates is all done based on his political ideology, and he accuses me of being political. What we have standing here and the two correction officers who've been assaulted by the inmates has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with reality, and it has to do with the fact that because the inmates feel emboldened and because the inmates feel like they can do anything they want and get away with it, because we have a mayor who's proven to be not on the side of law and order, but more on the side of dogma and philosophy and his ideas of what he think should happen in jail. So I'm going to bring the two officers up to speak with you, to tell you their story as to what happened to them inside the New York City jails, in this case, both jails on Rikers Island. I'm going to bring the first officer up so he can tell you his story.
I work at George R. Viano Center and the Mental Observation Unit, and I just had an altercation with an inmate who slashed me in the face due to not wanting to put the hot pot back. And he just attacked me after he didn't want to put it back. He just put it on the floor. Another inmate stepped in to put it back for me. That's when the certain inmate that slashed me in the face, he walked over to the side, came back and blindsided me with what I would appear to be a sharpened object that he must have got from the side. But he cut me on the right side of my face, and an altercation ensued, and that's how I got this injury on my face.
On the 17th, I was conducting the locking at in my housing area. Prior to that, the whole day, one inmate was antagonizing me, threatening me, calling me names. At the end of the night, now around 8:30, this inmate was throwing bottles at me. He took my attention, and also my colleagues' attention. While immediately from my blind side, hot water was thrown in my face, and I covered my face, and I was hit. When I recovered now, I realized I was bleeding. A lot of blood everywhere, you know. I was just asked to leave. I was taken to the clinic, EMS. Yeah, that's how I ended up with these injuries on my face, burns, black eye, burns on my left shoulder, right arm. Yeah. Sorry.
We're gonna entertain questions, but the reality is that this has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with law and order. It has to do with protecting the men and women who every morning get up, like these two gentlemen, and go to these jails and protect the public and protect public safety. And we continue to ask the mayor to reinstate punitive segregation for any and all violent inmates, regardless of their age. There's no way that anyone should be able to get away with this. And he cannot rest his hat on that they're going to be prosecutors to the fullest extent of the law, because that's not him. That's the Bronx District Attorney. She does that. He cannot rest his hat on they're being rearrested. That's not him. That's the Department of Corrections. But what we need from him is we need to get back what he took away. We are, in his words, the first nation, the first in the nation to eliminate punitive segregation, and we continue to ask the mayor, why does he think he's the first and only that have eliminated this for inmates ages 18 to 21? And we need to get this back. We're going to entertain questions from you. If you have any questions for me, you have any questions for the officers.
Yeah, question for you, sir. I know that you were attacked just this weekend. If you don't mind stepping back in front of the mics. Can you sort of explain what this was like for you to be attacked, what you're thinking and feeling this whole time, and what it's like for you to work in an environment in which you have to be fearful?
Well, to be honest, I was surprised at the whole situation. I did not see it coming. In an environment like that, you do tend to watch your back more often. But at that time, someone else had my attention, and he just came up from my blind side.
Why did you become a correction officer?
I was interested in being law enforcement. So I took the test, and they answered.
Do you
Plus-
think there was any, I'm sorry, did you want to?
No, plus it's a great job.
Right.
Mhm.
Do you think there was any reason that he targeted you, or you just happened to be in his line of sight and he just went for it?
Well, that particular inmate, the one that attacked me, we had there's a previous history between me and him. I was escorting him. He was throwing basketball all over the place. I told him to stop. He pushed me. A few minutes later, he threatened me to cut me in the face, and then a week after this happened. But like I said, the other inmate was, he was basically antagonizing me the whole day, threatening me. So I guess at the end, that's what he acted on.
I have a question. Do you fear for your other colleagues because this inmate who attacked you is still exposed to your other colleagues who are still working at the facility?
A lot of them are dangerous. So yeah, I'm pretty fearful of them.
Had you feared for your life or safety before getting attacked on Saturday?
Yes.
Talk about that.
I've been threatened multiple times, and it's not the first time I've been assaulted there in the facilities.
But you keep coming back to work, so why?
Because he's a correction officer, and
It's
that's
my
what
job.
we do.
Say that again?
Because it's my job. And like the president says, it's what we do.
And what is it like for you going to work every day and not knowing if you're gonna come out the same way you went in, which you didn't on Saturday?
Well, that's why we have each other's back, and all the other officers, that's why we have each other's back.
How are you feeling now? What are your injuries like now? And are you fearful to go back this time around?
Well, my face, it hurts, to be honest. Pains here, and my eye I couldn't drive. Somebody had to pick me up today because I couldn't drive because my eye was killing me. And as being fearful, well, I'm not that fearful, but it's a part of what I do, what I signed up for.
How do you think this could have been prevented?
You want to speak? You can ask.
I'm not sure.
Is it hard to, just really quickly before we change, is it hard to talk about what happened? It's a personal thing.
It is hard because it's reentry shouldn't have happened. But well, I'm not too sure about that one. It's, I don't know.
I believe it's part of the mayor's negligence towards our department that he eliminated so many things that give restrictions towards these inmates. Like, they have no consequences, so when they do something, they're not scared of the consequences because there really are not much consequences for them to fear. So they could do this, and then they get a little bit added onto their sentence, or they get thrown. They don't even get thrown into punitive segregation anymore because he eliminated it. So
Now, when this policy was changed, what were your thoughts when you walk into work every day knowing that there is this new policy?
I think of what is this? What's going to happen to me today? Is there, like, God forbid, I get into an argument with an inmate or something, an altercation or something? He's not going to even be scared or hesitate to do anything worse to me because there's no more restrictions for him or there's no more punishments for him.
What was
Have you
that like
noticed
for you
more-
when you were attacked and you were slashed? Can you explain what that moment was like for you?
It was very surreal. Like, I didn't know. I was shocked at first, but I just used my training to defend myself. But then when I finally touched my face and realized, oh my God, I'm bleeding, he must have, he cut me. It's a horrifying experience, honestly, knowing that there's something on my.
Can you show us with your finger?
Yeah, it's going down the face.
How deep was it?
It was about 5 inches long.
And you said it was like a sharpened tool?
See, whatever he grabbed out, they didn't find a weapon, but he had what I saw appeared to be a sharpened object.
That he was able to conceal after the fact?
I don't know. They just never found it
never found
because
it.
One of the things that the union has been fighting for are these scanners. One of the things that the union have been fighting for is the body scanners, because you all already know, because you are the ones who put it on your network, that inmates are taking weapons, non-metal weapons, and putting it in their rear ends or other parts of their bodies. And because we don't have these scanners that were taken away from us, we're unable. So even if we took this inmate who cut him, we can't find it. If he takes it and he sticks it in his rectum, which is what a lot of them do, we can't find it. So that's part of the problem. Again, we have a mayor who, for 4 years, haven't been fighting hard enough for us to get the body scanners. This mayor hasn't been doing anything, in my opinion, that he should do to protect us. You guys are listening to these officers. You ask them, why do they come to work? Because that's what we do. That's what we do. We are law enforcement officers. We believe in the law. We took this job because we wanted to be a part of law enforcement. But there's no reason why this mayor should not do everything that he is supposed to do and that he can do to protect us. We need the body scanners. We need punitive segregation. Currently, both inmates that assaulted these officers, what did the city do with them? They sent them to Albany. What do they have in Albany? Punitive segregation. Where are they in Albany? They're in punitive segregation. So we actually have City Hall and a mayor who's being hypocritical. He's being hypocritical. You can't say that it's inhumane, but then you send them to Albany, or you send them to Westchester, or you send them to Suffolk or Nassau County for something that you say is inhumane. At this point, which is why we're calling on the public advocate, we're calling on the members of the city council, we're even calling on Schneiderman to come and investigate because something has to be done, because this mayor has already proven over the last 4 years. These officers are part of the 2,000 correction officers who've been assaulted since he's been mayor. I mean, I guess the next press conference have to be with the 700 inmates who've been stabbed and slashed and cut since he's been mayor. And his policies is what's putting all of us in danger.
Eli, but when it comes to the scanners, the Department of Corrections says that's really due to state law. And it's the New York State Assembly and Albany that has to do something to allow those non-invasive body scanners.
The only problem is, Lisa, in New York City jails and in state jails, when it comes to safety, the law says that they have to protect us. And if those scanners are the way that we are being protected, then you know what? Take me to court. If I'm the mayor, take me to court, sue me. I'm going to use these scanners. The same thing with the commissioner of the agencies. The same thing with everybody. They have an obligation to keep us safe. They have an obligation. No one should get arrested for shoplifting and go home with 22 stitches across his face. Those are inmates. No one should get arrested for non-payment of child support and go home with a broken eye socket. These things can't be happening. So obviously, we need someone other than the mayor, because he's proven to be either unwilling or unable to protect us, to protect the inmates, and to protect the civilians who find ourselves behind bars.
Can I ask a question of the?
You should.
Of you who was slashed? Can you talk a little bit? I mean, do you like this job and why?
I always wanted to be in law enforcement, so yes, I do enjoy it. I enjoy the officers that I work with,
What do you enjoy about it?
being in law enforcement.
But what about law enforcement? Why?
I always signed up to, just throughout my whole life, just wanted to be in law enforcement, and,
Have you noticed in the last couple of years, as the punitive segregation has dwindled away, or been taken away, have you noticed inmates acting more aggressively overall?
Yes, actually, the guy that assaulted me came from the box, came from punitive segregation.
What do you mean he came from it?
He was originally in punitive segregation when I first arrived at the jail, and then he came over to my mental health unit, and
After the policy changed?
yeah.
Right.
What was that moment like? I mean, was it going by fast or? I mean,
Yeah, it was very surreal. At first, I didn't know what happened, and then like I said, I touched my face, I was bleeding, and everything just ensued in such a fast motion.
Mr. Hussamadine, a question for you. Punitive segregation, is this the same thing as solitary confinement, or is this a version of it?
Although people seem to use punitive segregation the same way they use solitary confinement, although they're two different things. People seem to use jail the same way they use prison, although they're two separate things. Punitive segregation is just what it is. It's punitive, and you're separated or segregated from the rest of the inmates, from the rest of the correction officers, so that you are not allowed to continue your violence and your behavior. So we do with punitive segregation, we'll segregate an inmate, separate this inmate for, let's just say it's 15 days. You're going to be locked, you're going to be by yourself in an area where other inmates like you are for 15 days, for 30 days, whatever that is. What we've found is that it works. Why do we know it worked? I was a punitive segregation correction officer for 4 years. Why do we know it worked? Because 99.9% of the inmates who were put in punitive segregation never go back to punitive segregation, although they never leave the jail. So actually, it is something that worked. And the reality is, the 1% that it doesn't work for don't belong with us. They belong somewhere in the Department of Mental Health. They belong in Bellevue. They belong in Creedmoor, or wherever it is that you put people who have psychological problems. We're correction officers. We are not mental health workers.
So the
Eli,
idea
do
that
you
it's
think that-
immoral, do you think it's immoral?
Do I think?
Punitive segregation, the argument that it's immoral. Do you think it's immoral?
No. I think that is a tool that law enforcement have used for hundreds of years, and it's an effective tool. The previous commissioner told this mayor that he should not eliminate punitive segregation because of the violence. The previous commissioner, who was Mr. Reformer himself, the commissioner that the mayor was interviewing to take this job from Washington State, said to him that this is a necessary tool. Former Commissioner Martin Horn said it's a necessary tool. Everybody seems to understand, at least those of us who are correction professional, what punitive seg is, why it's needed, and why it's actually effective, except this particular mayor. And like I said, although he accused me of being political, his eliminating punitive segregation was purely political.
Elias, what do you think would have happened if these types of attacks that happened on these two correction officers here and the others, if they had happened on members of the NYPD, what do you think the reaction would have been?
I think the city would have been shut down. Quite frankly, this is not something that they would tolerate. And it doesn't even have to only be the NYPD. It could be EMS workers. It could be firefighters. It could be any law enforcement officer that find themselves under attack, or as the Brooklyn Borough President put it, ambush. It would be treated much, much different, which is why we are here, and which is why over the last 2 years we've been fighting like hell to get it back.
What do you think is, I mean, you are dealing with a dangerous population. What is a reasonable level of risk to assume as a correction officer?
I'm sorry, say that again.
What's a reasonable level of risk to assume as a correction officer?
A reasonable level of risk.
Is there one?
We in law enforcement do this job because, like he said, we love it. We want to do it. We understand the inherent risk that goes with being a correction officer, with being a police officer, but that has nothing to do with the fact that there are those people who are in place to ensure that whatever the reasonable risk is, that is minimized, or that these things are addressed when they happen. And that's just not what's happening.
Now, you said it works, but also to follow up on the question, is it moral? Is it a moral tool that works?
Listen, maybe I could get Father Flanagan or somebody up here to answer you guys' question about what's moral. What I know is that we are correction officers, okay? And it's our job to protect the public from these people who you've decided to put in jail. The inmate that attacked this correction officer is in jail on a murder charge. He attacked another correction officer and fractured the officer's orbital socket. As far as the questions of morality, I'm not here to talk about what's morality. My name is Elias Husamuddin, and I'm president of the Correction Officers Benevolent Association. And what we are tasked with as correction officers is keeping the public safe, keeping the inmates safe, keeping the civilians safe that find ourselves behind bars. So when people commit crime, you know what, let me say this. You asked me a question, is it moral? Is it moral to lock them up, period? Because it's punitive, right? When they commit a crime in the street, when this inmate who assaulted him is in jail for attempted murder, was it immoral to lock him up? Because that's a punitive thing. When you put somebody in jail, you remand them, that's punitive. Is that immoral? So then why is there a question about it being immoral now that he's in jail and continuing to commit the same crime? It's not a question of morality. It's a question of law and order. That's what it is.